Hi guys, it's Red here, and this is a video from the Scoutmaster series. If this is the first video of the series you're watching, I strongly recommend to watch the previous ones first, as this time we're discussing active scouting on light tank, and it's important to know the stuff we discussed earlier. First of all, let's talk about some prerequisites for active scouting. Number 1. You have well-trained crew. All crew members have camo trained to 100%. The only possible exception is the commander, who might have taken V-range perk instead. V-range perks trained at least partially are also strongly recommended. 2. If you don't have brothers in arms, ventilation is also strongly recommended. Still be a nice bonus to the V-range if you have brothers in arms. When your crew skill has trained the V-range to the max, you can replace it with stabilizer or leave the ventilation there. Both options are okay. And 3. In case you like your V-range or you want to push your V-range to the absolute max, be ready to use food, because its bonus is very significant. Of course, I don't have to remind you that you must have optics, this is kinda obvious. So let's not pull it for too long and get to the business. So how is Active Scout supposed to play effectively? Remember that for some reason these guidelines may not be followed. Also, don't forget to find a right balance between passive and active scouting. Depends on the situation in the battle, depends on the map, team setups, etc. Some of the guidelines of course intersect the guidelines for passive scouting. We'll run over those scouting pillars quickly. 1. You spot enemies for a purpose. You either let your team know where enemies are, or you spot for your team to deal damage. If your team already knows where certain tanks are and they can't deal any damage to those enemies you can spot, don't risk spotting them for no use. 2. Stability. Make sure your actions have minimal risk for you. Remember that the outcome of your actions should depend as least as possible on your enemy. Don't rush into unpredictable areas, especially in the beginning of the battle. You don't want to face some autoloader in front of you and see that nobody from your team actually supported you. Better safe than sorry. And 3. Flexibility. You should be able to retreat and switch flank in case you can't be of much use here anymore. Let's add some more rules to this list, which are valid specifically for active scouting. 4. Tend to spot enemies while being exposed as little time as possible. In other words, try to stay in cover as much as possible, stick your viewport out, then immediately hide. No need to keep rolling back and forth in front of a dozen enemies. It violates the stability pillar. And 5. On the open spaces, distance control is one of the key aspects of survival and effective scouting. Keep an eye on the distance to your enemies. Remember that with your camo you can drive around, keep everyone spotted while staying invisible. A good light tank driver spends half of the time looking at the minimap. Don't underestimate its power. It helps you see the distance to the enemies, helps to see if someone is flanking your position, or simply that it's time to leave and look for some other prey. Remember that on a light tank you don't have a right for a mistake. Don't always play the same position. You should know the map well and be able to spot effectively regardless of the situation. Don't show yourself at exactly the same spot more than once. The enemies could expect that and be aimed at that point. Of course, nothing can be better than personal experience, so if your crew is not the first day in the tank, try playing more actively. Try to play aggressively. Try to spot enemies in the beginning of the battle. Remember that if the enemy team loses 1000 or 2 hit points on a tier 10 battle in the beginning, it's already a good investment into victory. Try to operate on the open spaces where you can use the distance to stay unseen as long as possible. The second option is to operate using hills like in the battle you are watching now. Learn to get spotted only when you allow your enemies to spot you. It's hard and needs a lot of practice to master that, but aren't you watching the Scoutmaster to master that? Although this all sounds like not too much, you have to keep a lot of things in your head in the battle. The position of the enemies whom you can't spot to avoid being hit from them. Keeping distance, checking that your team can deal damage, checking that nobody can flank you, your ranges of the possible enemies to define your degree of freedom, etc, etc, etc. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this video interesting, please like it to promote it. It helps me out. Share this video with your friends and clanmates to support me. Subscribe not to miss interesting stuff and check out my previous videos. See you in bushes.